My name is Madhukumar Sheshadri, and today I'm going to show you how to build a web app using the talkweb framework. You can find the talkweb framework at the github.com. So, okay, and first we will create a project folder. We'll call that demo. We'll open the folder in VS Code. The first thing we're going to do is to create directories for our app and the statics that that is going to go into the app. So in order to use it, I'm going to use most of it from the example code that comes in the talkweb. So we'll go to the example. We'll take this prepare file, which prepares a skeleton for the web and the app directories. Just create the file here, and just come here and execute the file. So it created this app file and the htdocs file. The htdocs goes to the the HTTP web server, and you have your statics for CSS and JSS, and the app goes to any folder inside your in your local directory, and which is not exposed to the web server. And you can hold the HTML, holds the template HTMLs and the responders, which will have the dynamic code written in Python to respond back to the URL request that you're going to get. So the first thing is, let's start with creating a template HTML, and we'll create that we'll call that as x.html. We'll just write some HTML. And we'll just put a div in there, and we'll call that div with an ID container, and we will insert some dynamic content here. So we created. Now we're going to go create the first responder and call it hello world.py, and we will take the sample responder and these are all responders. So we'll just use a simple responder. And I don't think we're going to use the session and cookies and today, so we don't have to worry about that. But we do have to know where this HTML is going to come from. So there is a function called app-based-dir, which gives you that based on where you deploy it and configure it. So we just use the app-based-dirs and pass this environ to the responder. This responder is a class that is inherited from the UI responder, which is defined in WSGI talkback, and we just use that. We just inherit that, and we just respond to the URL that we want to respond. So when the URL says, hello world, it will automatically respond back. It will automatically come here, invoke this object, and call the respond function in order for you to get the response. So we will use the app-based-dir, and we have that HTML called as x.html. So we'll just go to h.html. We'll come to objects by using H2O from the talkweb framework, which converts this HTML file into object, and then I believe we used container. Yes, the ID was container. So by ID container, and we will add a cell to that container and just we don't need any of this. So, and we respond back to with the status 200 and OK, and any headers or responses that we want to put in, and this page HTML, which now will have the hello world. Now, in order for this hello world to be invoked, the Apache needs to know the URL, and in order to do that, we have to implement FSR, and that is implemented in gate.py. So we'll go there and take this gate.py and create that in the app folder. So this basically uses the mod WSGI, calls this application and passes the environment and start response and start responding back. So we don't need cookies in session today because we're not covering it. So I'm going to remove that. What we want to do today is just simply get that responder. We can, get a responder from the WSGI talkback. So you ask the factory responders to get a responder URI responder, and the responder to respond for and pass the use session. So the environment which comes from mod WSGI, the session, and the cookies which are not going to be processed. And then it gives back the responder, which is this hello world.py, and we invoke the respond function and get the pages HTML and send it back to the application. Okay. Now we needed two more things. One, we need to deploy this htdocs, which we don't have any static content, so we don't to the Apache htdocs Apache's folder, and then this app goes to wherever you want. In order to do that, we have a deploy script which we can just simply come here and take from here. We'll call this file as deploy, and deploy comes out here, and here htdocs goes to Apache 2, and the app goes static contents to your local folder. I'm going to use user local app, use whatever you want. We want the application name to be demo because it was demo. And that's it. The rest of the code, it will automatically deploy it to this thing, and we come here and change the mode to deploy. We deploy it. Okay, now the last thing we want to do is to configure Apache. In order to do that, there's a configuration. In order to, Apache has to know what this gate is, because the gate is what the mod WSGI is going to invoke. So in order to do that, we have to include this, the Apache. So I think there is. We'll just use this file. We'll call the URL that we want for the project. Any responders inside the project that we'll just call it dem, and we deployed it in the demo folder and use a local app, and that is where the gate can be found. And then we want to give the permission to that particular folder. So we come here and restart the server. now we should be able to see it was localhost dem was the name, and the hello world was not hello world. What was the responder code? Was the responder called hello world? So we just, oh, we have an error. Okay, something with indentation. This happens when you cut and paste code from the web. So I think this is coming from gate.py. So we go to gate.py and use session is equal to none. We'll have to open it in another editor and see whether there is a tab issue. It looks good. So we go back, deploy the app, and restart the server. Hello world. Now at this point, just to recap what we did, we created an template HTML, extra HTML, which doesn't go to the statics. And then we implemented a responder called hello world.py, which was inherited from the UI responder and WSGI talkback. We used the talkback framework to take this HTML, come to an object, and then we inserted this hello world div into that HTML. And then we responded back to gate, and the gate was configured in Apache as the facade for the responders to respond to. Now, if you want to run another responder, we just simply copy this and we'll call this hello world 2, hello world 2, and we'll say hello world 2 here. That way, this thing, and we will just deploy it and come here and say hello world 2, and then we want hello world 2. This way you can write as many responders as you want, and every responder is inherited from the responder in WSGI talkback, and that responder, basically you write your response back to the whatever respond you want to write to. So you can write as many responses to any URL you want. And now you can do get, request, and post request. You can look at the examples in the GitHub for that. It has example for most of the cases that we will use in the prep. Ajax, get form, post form, and processing headers and all that. Thanks for watching today.